My name's Harry, and I wasn't looking for anything that day. It was a Saturday in late spring, one of those bright, indifferent afternoons. I had driven across town to help my brother Ben with a charity event his office was running. Burgers, bottled water, folding chairs, nothing glamorous. He'd talked me into it. Said they were short on hands, and I owed him for something I probably didn't even remember. That's where I first saw Marilyn. She was working the sign-in table. Clipboard in hand, polite smile, soft voice. She looked nice, not unforgettable, not dazzling. Just there. We exchanged a few words, weather, traffic, the usual fluff, and then I went back to manning the grill. If you'd asked me her name the next morning, I probably wouldn't have remembered. 3 weeks later, I saw her again, this time at Ben's backyard cookout. She came with his co-worker, Lindsay, and something had shifted. Gone was the clipped, administrative vibe. She had a glass of wine in one hand, the other twirling a strand of hair as she laughed at something I didn't hear. She looked like she belonged there. We talked again. Longer this time. She asked what I did. I told her I worked in private security management. She nodded, like she was actually listening, not just being polite. Said she did freelance marketing. It didn't feel flirty, didn't feel calculated. Just comfortable. Later, we ended up at the cooler at the same time. She asked if I lived nearby. I said I was across town. That was it. No long stares, no lingering touches. But before she left, she asked if I wanted her number. I said sure. She typed into my phone, smiled, and walked off. We started texting after that. A few calls. Then coffee, dinner, weekends. It didn't rush. It unfolded quiet and steady. No games, no drama. The kind of start that feels harmless. Looking back, maybe that's what made it dangerous. When something begins softly, you don't hear the warnings coming. Marilyn and I dated for almost 2 years. It wasn't fireworks and poetry. It was measured, consistent. She liked making plans, weekend getaways, couples game nights, themed movie marathons. I was more of a quiet dinner and fall asleep by 10 kind of guy. But I leaned into her world. Adjusted. She once told me, you don't push, you make space for people. I thought that was a compliment. I believed that meant we were building something together. A year in, we moved in together. Small townhouse on the city's edge. Quiet, affordable. She turned the guest room into a home office. I set up a gym in the garage. We split rent, chores, furniture. Everything felt fair, functional. When I proposed, it wasn't a grand gesture. Just dinner at her favorite Italian spot and a ring hidden in a dessert box. She cried, said yes, hugged me like she'd been waiting her whole life. 6 months later, we got married. A simple backyard wedding at Ben's. 50 guests, string lights, barbecue catering. She planned most of it, colors, music, seating charts. I just smiled, showed up, said, I do. Right after the wedding, I was offered a management role at a larger security firm. More money, more stress. Nights, weekends, out-of-town gigs. She told me to take it. We'll figure it out. It's for our future. So I did. The next few months were a blur of late flights, endless calls, and promises that things would settle soon. They didn't. She stayed busy, too. More clients, longer hours. I'd come home to the smell of old takeout, and lights already turned off. We shared more silence than conversations. But I kept telling myself, this is temporary. Just a rough patch. But the truth is, we weren't falling apart. We were already broken. We just hadn't noticed the crack. Distance doesn't always come from miles. Sometimes it's in the quiet moments, in what isn't said, in who stops asking and who stops answering. Marilyn changed subtly at first. She'd stop asking about my trips. If I shared a rough day, she'd nod, distracted. One night I came home after red-eye from Phoenix, dead tired, 3 hours of sleep, and she didn't even look up from her laptop when I walked in. Miss me? I asked, trying to smile. Without looking, you were gone. I laughed, until I realized she wasn't joking. Later that night, she rolled away from me in bed and asked, Are you even happy? With your job? With us? I blinked into the dark. I told her I was doing all this for us. For the roof, the future, the stability. She didn't answer, just pulled the blanket tighter. Then came the accusations. At first, disguised as questions. You ever get tempted out there? Then sharper. You probably like being away more than being home. And finally, you're seeing someone, aren't you? I remember standing there, holding a mug of coffee, staring at her like I'd never seen her before. No, I said, and I shouldn't have to defend that. She scoffed. Men always say that before the truth comes out. That night, I didn't sleep beside her. A few weeks later, she told me she was heading to a lake house with her friend Rachel. Just the girls. No drama. Sounds good, I said. You need a break. She kissed me, barely, and left. I didn't suspect anything. Not until I got a text from Rachel later that night asking about a patio heater I'd once recommended. I replied, "Hope you're enjoying the lake." Her reply, "I'm home." Why? Everything went still. I called her. She picked up. No. She hadn't seen Marilyn in weeks. Is everything okay? Yeah, I said. Just miscommunication. I didn't call Marilyn. I didn't scream. I just sat there, TV on mute, heart quietly cracking. She came home the next day like nothing happened. Latte in hand, keys tossed in the bowl, fake smile on her lips. Trip was great, she said. We should go next time. I asked, how's Rachel? She's good, she lied effortlessly. Still obsessed with true crime podcasts. I stared. Funny, I said. She texted me last night. Said she was home. Everything about her froze. You're lying, I said. Not a question, just truth. She crumbled. A little. Admitted it wasn't Rachel. Said it wasn't what I thought. Then explain it. She sat down like the couch was the only thing holding her up. I was with Jordan, she said. You don't know him. Should I? He's a consultant. Works with some of my clients. Business or personal? It didn't start that way. Did it end that way? Silence. She looked at me and said, You've been gone, Harry. Not physically. Emotionally. Jordan sees me. He listens. I nodded. Slowly. So this is my fault. I'm not saying that. Yes, you are. She stood. I'm not going to be blamed for needing more than bills and security. I need to feel like I matter. I didn't yell. Didn't slam a door. I just walked away. The next morning, I called my lawyer. I didn't tell her. I let the paperwork do the talking. When she read it, she didn't cry. Just crossed her arms and said, This is what you want? No, I said, This is what you already chose. The divorce was messy, cold, every call a negotiation, every meeting a formality. She took the car. I kept the house. She walked away with half the savings. I kept my silence. A few weeks later, she remarried. Jordan. Courthouse wedding. I found out from Ben, who saw it on Instagram. I didn't scream. Didn't cry. Just sat on my porch that night and listened to the wind. 3 weeks later, I ran into them at Home Depot. Aisle 14. Lighting section. She saw me first. Face went pale. Jordan looked ordinary. Shorter than I imagined. Patchy beard. Shirt hanging off his frame like it belonged to someone else. I looked at them. Smiled. Hope you two are doing well. She clutched his arm like I was a ghost she'd rather not acknowledge. I walked away. Not bitter. Just free. Months passed. I found peace. Fixed up the house. Went back to running. Nothing grand. Just me. I ran into one of her friends outside a cafe. Stacy. She smiled like we were old classmates. I always thought you were too good for her, she said. I smiled politely. Said thanks. She asked if I wanted to grab a drink sometime. As friends, she added. I said no. Gently. I'm not looking for reruns. I wasn't bitter. I was done. Looking back, I don't think losing Marilyn was a tragedy. It was clarity. If someone wants to misunderstand you, they will. If you have to constantly defend your integrity, you're not in love. You're in a silent war. Marilyn didn't break me. She freed me. She was never my future. Just a moment I mistook for meaning. And now, she's just a face I once passed by, one I'll never need to turn around for again.